that I must pay for, and I don't have that. I've been necessary. Now I must now struggle to get employment in my clinic, in my community. On 6,000. Just for you to be able to produce papers that I've qualified to do. So we are going to have a conversation with them on this thing. But even they I don't understand why these ones wants to accredit. Uh, it can't. So very good if the SIU is investigating because they have a suspicion. We will hear from them. I only hope they do it quick because unfortunately the SIU, once it goes in, it doesn't leave. I haven't heard a report from Forte when I was Minister of Higher Education since about 7 or 8 years ago. I left that department having not received a report. I only plead, and for you as members of parliament also, to say to the SIU, no staying forever. Do this thing as thoroughly as you want, but at some stage you must actually give a report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Question number 414 has been asked by the Honourable Langa to the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. The question is, what measures has he put in place to ensure that the proposed Vaal Special Economic Zone delivers sustainable reindustrialization and/or long-term economic growth in the region and track its measurable outcomes and/or success? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. As an evidence-based department, we as a country collectively approved the Citibank Region Business Plan. We know and understand that Citibank is experiencing challenges, including economic decline, deindustrialization, reduced demand in the steel sector, and declining private sector investment. At the same time, the region retains strong industrial infrastructure, strategic location advantages, and a sizable labor force which provide a foundation for a reindustrialization agenda. The SEZ is therefore a targeted intervention aimed at reindustrializing the region, attracting investment into diversified and outgrowth sectors, including green industries, leveraging existing infrastructure and capabilities to drive industrialization, promoting job creation, innovation, and skills development. Today, the proposed SEZ has secured a strong pipeline of confirmed investments exceeding 10 billion rand in phase one, spanning energy, chemicals, agro-processing, and advanced manufacturing. These phase one investments are expected to generate approximately 4,000 to 5,000 direct and indirect jobs. These investments have been vetted by the IDZ program to ensure that they are credible and committed investors in the SEZ. In addition, large-scale catalytic projects such as the Vaal Aerotropolis, AB InBev SAP, and Kwamalet Capital industrial beneficiation initiatives further elevate the long-term impact of the SEZ, positioning it as a key driver of Gauteng's industrial economy. Overall, the SEZ is projected to unlock 30 billion rand in investment, creating approximately 30,000 jobs, rather 30,000 direct jobs, and over 60,000 indirect jobs. We remain in the business of attracting investments in infrastructure delivery. As stated before, every rand co-invested will result in a job. Our task as this parliament is to ensure that we remain accountable, promote transparency and strategic alignment so that we deliver our collective mandate to drive industrialization, investment, and inclusive economic growth. Thank you very much.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Langa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Minister, in the event that the proposed Vaal Special Economic Zone fails to meet its investment, job creation, and industrialization targets within the projected timelines, what corrective or exit strategies has the department put in place to mitigate fiscal risk and ensure that the public resources are not wasted? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. I should say, Honorable Langa, that we are a lot more optimistic than that. We have received commitments from a number of investors already, as indicating appetite to invest. And in fact, we're already seeing significant investments being made by a number of players in the Vaal area. This would include commitments that have been made by AP InBev, commitments that have been made by Heineken, commitments that have been made around the Erotropolis, and commitments and investments that are done in chemicals and in agro-processing industries. So our approach is to ensure that we facilitate that these investments happen in a structured way, and the best way to mitigate it is through a phased way of implementation so that we don't invest in infrastructure that is underutilized. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Mosikatsi.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Minister, what types of companies have expressed interest in the Vaal Special Economic Zone, given the initial focus on green energy, agro-processing and manufacturing? In which of the 5 sites targeted has there been progress? And how has the department been assisting the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency to ensure that the project has investment incentives and it is successful? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker and Honourable Mosikatsi. Firstly, it's important to confirm that, in fact, the department has sent capacity, including acting CEOs, to serve in the Vaal Special Economic Zone, especially working with the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency. So we're an active partner in the implementation of the SEZ. The second is that we have received and have had expressions of interest from companies ranging from green energy technology solution providers, including hydrogen development and other similar initiatives to invest in the SEZ. We've received appetite from agro-processing companies. We've received appetite and commitments, in fact, from companies that are involved in green steel, companies that are involved in areas of taking advantage of the green economy opportunities in the area, including, of course, the Vaal River development initiatives. And these all constitute a concerted number of investors that have indicated appetite to invest in the Citybang region. Thank you.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Gama.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your answers. You talk about an appetite for investment. You talk about investment pipelines, but none of these things have actually happened. And it's always talk about pipelines. In light of the faltering energy supply and the dependence of steel and cement sectors in the area, What concrete power supply benchmarking and risk-adjusted investment plans, including load shedding mitigation strategies, are embedded in the SEZ framework to prevent a repeat of past bottlenecks? And what penalties or accountability measures exist for non-delivery?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker and Honorable Kama. I think it is important to state that when you do implement a special economic zone, the starting point is one, to identify areas for designation. Secondly, to undertake a process of soliciting investors, which is the basis on which an approval is granted for a special economic zone. So until the investors have come in and the SEZ has been designated, you can't talk about actual investments that have happened. It's a process to actually get to the designation of the SEZ, on which basis investors come in. And that's why we talk about pipeline and commitment. That, however, does not mean that, in fact, we have not been able to attract investors into the area of Sedibeng, broadly speaking. We continue to engage with a variety of investors that have indicated, and some of them are actually practically investing in the Sedibeng area. And some of them are saying, we can't wait for the SEZ, we're prepared to proceed. But for purposes of the SEZ, you can only say this is invested in the SEZ when the SEZ exists. And I think that's important. With regards to power supply, I think the issues have generally been ventilated in this parliament about the progress being made with regards to power supply into the entire country, but also a focus on industrial areas as part of the challenges that we deal with as a country. And the extent of progress that has been made indicates that at this moment is not one of our areas of anxiety. Thank you very much.
The fourth supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Thring.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Minister, the proposed Vaal Special Economic Zone is intended to revitalize the Vaal's region's industrial base, which has declined significantly over the last decade due to deindustrialization, factory closures, job losses. It's positioned within the broader framework of South Africa's industrial policy, and the SEZ aims to attract investment, promote manufacturing, and leverage the region's historical strengths in steel production, fabrication, and logistics. Now, Minister, in light of South Africa's continued reliance on exporting raw materials, what specific interventions will your department implement within the Vaal SEZ to promote beneficiation, ensuring that locally produced raw materials are processed into higher value finished goods within the zone? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much once again. Firstly, let me confirm that, in fact, the Vaal was anchored around the steel industry. As a result of changes in the steel industry, including oversupply of steel, protective measures by various countries, you would know that the US has imposed what is called Section 232 tariffs that have increased export of steel products by 50% tariff into the US market. The EU is currently threatening a potential increase from 25 to 35 to 50% tariffs in the areas of steel. That has impacted significantly on a region such as the Vaal and the anchor industry of that area. Our focus has been to address it at a macro level in terms of, one, mitigating the price control measures that have been introduced by other countries, ensuring that we're able to look at the price preference system to mitigate issues around pricing of steel and export of steel. We have advertised possible measures to introduce with regards to a critical input, which would be ferrochrome, as part of the areas that constitute part of the supply chain into the steel industry. So our response has been more comprehensive with regards to steel, looking at measures of supporting industry, but also protecting local industry from international oversupply that the whole world is currently dealing with. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Langa.
No, thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, beyond traditional performance indicators, how will the Minister ensure that the proposed Vaal Special Economic Zone does not simply displace economic activity from other regions or benefit a narrow group of established firms, but instead generates a genuinely new, diversified industrial capacity, particularly through innovation, localization of value chains, and meaningful participation of emerging and township-based enterprises? Thank you very much.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. Let me also indicate that the issue of localization is extremely important, particularly in sectors that are vulnerable and have experienced significant decline, but also significant international competition, as indicated earlier. This particularly in an environment where countries are significantly incentivizing their own steel industries in particular to be able to access and penetrate other markets such as South Africa. We have identified steel, amongst others, as one of the areas of focus in relation to designation for localization and ensuring that we're able to protect that industry. We have also, as the honorable member would know, intervened with regards to the potential liquidation of ArcelorMittal South Africa to mitigate what would have been a further devastating impact on the region of the Vaal, but also including Newcastle and other parts of the country. Our mitigation measures in relation to what constitutes challenges is also accepting that, in fact, there are huge opportunities considering the pipeline of public infrastructure investment driven by both Transnet and Eskom, but also private sector investments that would have great demand for steel and other input in the country. So we're also working on the basis of a potential set of opportunities that the country has committed to that would be demanding these products. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, I've been informed that question number 339 will be standing over. We'll thus proceed to question number 354 that has been asked by the Honorable Schlazo Webster to the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. The question is, what is the total number of the SA film and television production incentive applications that have been approved by his department but remain unpaid? And what is the total monetary value of such unpaid applications? The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Let me begin by saying that we have heard the industry challenges and we are collectively working towards addressing these. Certainly, Simunye, with the industry in this regard. In supporting the industry, the DTIC's incentives program attracted both domestic and international productions, contributing meaningfully to economic growth, employment creation, and skills development. Early iterations of the program already demonstrated strong results, with billions of rands in projected expenditure and substantial foreign direct investment flowing into the local economy. Over time, the program evolved into a suite of targeted initiatives supporting local productions, co-productions, and foreign productions. The success of the incentive is reflected in its measurable economic contribution. Since its inception, the program has supported more than 400 films and television productions, with over 4 billion rand distributed and more than 19,000 full-time jobs created across the value chain. Some of you might be familiar with the Academy-winning Tsotsi, District 9. The Women King has secured Academy Awards, Mad Max Fury Road, amongst others. Following the portfolio committee's engagement, the DTIC, together with the IDC, NEF, and industry stakeholders convened a consultative meeting on the 9th of March 2026. The purpose of the engagement was to assess funding mechanisms to support the sustainability and growth of the film and television production sector. A cost-benefit analysis was presented outlining various lending rate scenarios, a 3% interest rate, a 6.75% interest rate, possibly 8%, and 10%, 10.5%, which would be linked to the prime rate. This would be working with industry to find mechanisms of supporting industry and ensuring that the incentives continue to flow through to them. On the 31st of March, a total of 31 approved applications remain unpaid, subject to submission of complete and compliant claims. During the 25-26 financial year, payments amounting to 503 billion were made, or rather 503 million, were made, reducing the initial liability from 2.1 billion to 285 million. The total monetary value of outstanding approved applications currently stands at 285 million rand. Thank you very much.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Schlazo Webster.
Thank you very much, Minister. Is there a timeline by which the outstanding, I think you said it's 285 million, will be dispersed as the first? The second is, are there any plans to be able to introduce an intervention that addresses the exclusion of mostly young Black players in the industry? Because while I appreciate what you've shared and the growth in the industry over the years, the current program currently means there's an upfront kind of capital that is required. That's what the model looks like currently, and there's a reimbursement model, which means that you still exclude in the main producers and creators that are young, that are Black, that are women, that have been outside of the margins. Is there any plans, or are there any plans to introduce the kind of interventions that would then mean you have less exclusion?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to Honorable Schlazo Webster. Firstly, let me indicate that we have reached a point where we think we would be able to finalize settlement within the first quarter, but this is subject of the current financial year. But this is subject to all the applications meeting all the requirements that they need to meet. Because ultimately you need to pay against valid invoices, valid claims, and ensure that all the processes are followed to be able to disperse. And we're going to have to work with industry in resolving those. The second part of your question talks about how we envisage the future. Certainly, we need to revise the way in which the incentive structure is facilitated. And you need to ensure that you look at the entire ecosystem so that innovation can be encouraged, including from those that don't currently have capacity. We have thought that it is important that we resolve the historic challenges and then be able to get to the point where, as we revise the incentive structure, it is more accessible, but also more sustainable. That's why we're talking about the type of interest rate systems that we could consider working with industry. How do we finance it? Because sometimes financing happens from an agency such as the ITC, but you're able to claim against your incentive. So it's not like there isn't an upfront financing mechanism, but it's about ensuring that industry has line of sight of the entire ecosystem so that you know at what point to interface with what part of the ecosystem for my project to be able to succeed. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Mkutu.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Minister, the adjudicating panel for processing incentives for the SA film and TV production has not been fully functional. And the question is, what are the steps that you are taking to ensure that this committee is functional in processing the incentives? The second part of the question linked with the first one is then how are you going to deal with the backlog and the issue of outstanding payments? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to Honorable Mkutu. I should say that dealing with the backlog has been a very difficult and painstaking exercise so that we are able to ensure that we can adjudicate applications going forward. It was not worth it for the adjudication committee to sit, consider applications whilst they do not have money to be able to disperse. So we thought it's important that we deal with the backlog and we ensure that we are able to disperse. Now, against budget, we are in a position to, one, finalize the arrears, but also begin adjudicating. So we do anticipate that the committee should be able to sit and consider new applications. What we need to resolve is taking into account that it would probably constitute 50% of what would be the annual budget. How do we introduce it in a more sustainable way that's able to provide support to industry? So in terms of getting the committee to sit, it should be able to sit as applications are considered right now, and we will be advising as to the process of getting those applications to be considered. I should say my preference, and I've indicated to the department, is that it is possibly ideal to work with industry and talk about the fiscal constraints within which we're operating and how we together find solutions to ensuring that we don't stifle the industry whilst progressively reintroducing the incentive structure, including possible revisions into the incentive structure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Chance.
Thank you, House Chairperson, and thank you, Minister, for your responses. Since this matter became current in the public eye in the last few months, we do think that the department has made strides in solving the problem. But I'd like to know whether you have got any estimate as to the cost in jobs and revenue to the film industry as a result of the collapse of the revenue of the grant system, which has been in abeyance for the last 2 years. And what was the reason for you not applying to the Treasury for an adjustment to the budget to allow this amount that is still owed to be paid to the film industry? And finally, what methods are you using to try and convince international investors that the department is serious about getting this industry back on its feet instead of losing it to our competitors overseas? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, and thanks to Honorable Chance. We haven't done an assessment yet, and I think it's something that we can work on in terms of what the impact has been to date. We are engaging with Treasury around not just this incentive, but also the global business services incentives, but also the overall incentive structure and solutions in this regard. So the discussions with National Treasury are continuing. And of course, we are confident that with greater or increased allocations, we would be able to increase the opportunities in this sector, both in terms of permanent jobs, but also opportunities around the supply chains in this industry. I should say that this has not implied that, in fact, the film industry in South Africa is not surviving. We continue to have international films being shot in the country. We continue to have television and film productions in the country. What we need to do to accelerate this is through increased incentives. But I don't think we should get ourselves to a point that suggests that South Africa's film industry has completely been depleted. In fact, the industry continues to thrive even under difficult circumstances. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The fourth supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Gama.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable Minister, thank you very much for sharing with us the progress that's been made. You've indicated that 2.1 billion was owed. At the end of March, 500 million was paid, which means there's 1.6 billion that's still to come. But you indicate that only 285 will be paid this quarter. I'm not too sure how much exactly it is. The industry has also indicated that the incentive scheme is a bit opaque and not transparent. Can you commit that you will take steps to publish a full auditable list of all approved but unpaid applications, including applicant names, project titles, and project approval dates, and schedule payment timelines, and to make sure that this information is publicly accessible. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. And I think the easiest way to deal with the first part of the question, Honorable Kama, would be to reread the sentence or the paragraph. So as of the 31st of March 2026, a total of 31 approved applications remain unpaid, subject to submission of complete and compliant claims. During the 25-26 financial year, payments amounting to 503 million were made, reducing the initial liability from 2.1 billion to 285 million. So in essence, we're not just dealing with one financial year. We've been dealing with the liability coming from previous years. So you have to deal with it cumulatively from previous years and not just in one financial year.
It's the mathematics.
Are we prepared to publish the list? Certainly, in consultation with industry, we can do that.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Schlazo Webster.
Thank you, Minister. I think additional to the job losses that have taken place as a result of the challenges with the incentive scheme, as the result of the backlog that has taken place, is consequences from a global perspective. So we know that South Africa has built a strong global reputation as a film destination. And most recently, we had various productions that had taken place now, but now we have productions that are now relocating to countries with a more reliable and functional incentive kind of system. And so this becomes more than a sectoral concern. It ultimately becomes a global reputation concern and a credibility risk for our economy. How much foreign investment have you recorded as having been lost, both directly in the industry and through ancillary investment? How much of it have we lost due to this incentive backlog? And what are we going to do to actually recoup our credibility and reputation and that potential investment into the country?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. And I think it is important to re-emphasize the point that this has not meant the collapse of South Africa's film industry. We still continue to attract international and local film producers and television products that are done in the country, including animation and other areas in the film sector that continue to thrive in the country. Yes, the incentive has been a spanner in the wheels, if you like, for particular productions that had anticipated to work on the basis of this. And yes, we are concerned about the implications from a reputational point of view. But part of our reality is that we had to deal with the liabilities that we had. We've had approvals, we've had budget cuts, you were not able to pay this. And the first problem we had is the reputational issue of not paying against a legitimate claim. So let us deal with all the legitimate claims, restructure the incentive structure, look at the mechanism through which we can reconsider how the incentives could work, and certainly continue to lobby for films to be produced in the country. And that's something that we'll continue to do. Have we done a complete record? Not yet. We certainly can share that information to the extent that the honorable member wishes us to share what films have relocated and what the impact has been in those particular films. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, question number 382 has been asked by the Honourable Kruger to the Minister of Small Business Development. The question is, considering that small businesses in townships, rural areas and informal settlements are not consulted during the promulgation of regulations, what measurable evidence does she have that the policies of her department actually help small businesses to survive? And what measures has she introduced to ensure that small businesses are consulted directly before a new regulatory framework is introduced. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much, House Chairperson, and thank you to Honorable Kruger for the question. Let me first clarify that Honorable Kruger should not continue misleading the public in this House. He, seated where he is, knows very well that the department continues to engage with the informal and the formal businesses. And that has been evident to a point that they've complained that the department holds lots of meetings, because we strongly believe that we've got to engage both those that are in the urban, in the rural, and the peri-urban. And this has been evident, House Chair, as we undertook our engagements and public consultations on the business licensing bill, which we went to a point of extending, including the consultation process. We did the same with the One National Plan for the MSME ecosystem to ensure that stakeholders are able to input meaningfully and they own the process of the policy, because we do believe in participatory democracy. We are certain that all our policies support the survival of small businesses, and therefore it's grounded in the demonstrated relationship between reducing the regulatory burden and improving business sustainability, as well as an empirical assessments conducted by the department. With our mandate, we have prioritized the reduction of regulatory and administrative barriers, widely recognized as a key constraint to the survival of MSMEs, particularly those that operate in the township and the rural areas. The studies and assessments undertaken by the department on the cost and time burdens associated with the regulatory compliance have shown that complex, duplicative, and costly processes, especially at municipal level, place significant strain on small businesses and therefore limit their ability to remain operational. By the end of the last financial year, the department had identified 26 legislative and regulatory constraints against all spheres of government that impede the growth and sustainability of MSMEs and cooperatives. Our own red tape reduction framework, which was approved in 2025-2026, is intended to systematically address these constraints. Interventions such as streamlining licensing requirements, reducing administrative duplication across municipalities, and introducing digital application systems are designed to lower compliance costs, reduce processing times, and improve regulatory predictability. The feedback that we've received from all the stakeholders on the business licensing bill indicate that simplified and more efficient regulatory processes reduce operational risk and improve the ability of small enterprises to continue trade. These outcomes are monitored through measurable improvements in turnaround times and compliance costs, which are critical determinants of business sustainability. The department's regulatory reform efforts are complemented by broader program performance indicators that are reported at departmental level. We continue to introduce several measures to ensure that small businesses in townships and rural areas are directly consulted prior the introduction of the policies that we're talking about. We've engaged business organizations such as BUSA, the BBC, NAFCOC, Trader, the Township Economy Development Community of Southern Africa, the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa, NAFCOC Retail Sector, Small Business Institute, and the Border Kai Chamber of Business, amongst others, including some township business forums. And all of this, Honorable Chair, they are a direct indication that you are committed to consultations. Cabinet has approved the National Framework for the Development of Policies, which is called the CS, and it requires that we consult all the stakeholders that are affected by the policy. All these measures demonstrate the department's commitment to inclusive, transparent, and participatory policy development processes and ensure that the lived experiences of small businesses directly inform regulatory reforms aimed at improving the ease of doing business and strengthening the sustainability of businesses. Thank you so much, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Kruger.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, thank you for the long answer. But South Africa's small businesses are not failing because of a lack of effort. They are being suffocated by the cost of doing business. So, Minister, will you indicate to this House whether the department has quantified the accumulative national cost of the new licensing bill? If yes, what is the total cost? And if not, why not?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much, House Chairperson. The honourable member knows very well that I said I will bring all the information in relation to the business licensing bill when we table in Parliament. Right now, we're busy with the government department processes and the public. And once we finalize that, we'll provide all the information when we table in this House and the portfolio committee. Thank you so much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Malamacha.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Minister, bontsi bja batho mo magaeng ka baka mokgwa township oba le village-ing haholo-holo borakgwebo potlana ba na le ona monano wa gore ge o dirwa melawana ye le gore o ka yona ba ka kry-a thušo lena e ba šia ka ntle and seo sa dira gore ba se ka hwetša menyetla le bona ba be batho. Ekaba Minister, what are the types of consultation processes that are utilized for the development of regulations for small and medium business in townships and rural areas? Furthermore, what criteria is utilized to determine the reduction of red tape for MSMEs businesses? Thank you so much.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much, House Chairperson. All right, Honorable Malemeja, to respond to your question, I spoke about certain policies that we're introducing in place. One of those policies is the Township and Rural Economic Development and Revitalization Policy, which Cabinet had approved for gazetting, and now we're finalizing the inputs. Even when that policy was taking place, we conducted consultations extensively. As I indicated to Honorable Kruger, we go to the lower level, including the informal traders. This we do because, as I said, our constitution dictates that we do so, but also because we have an appreciation that the work that we do is not for government, it's for the public and therefore the entrepreneurs at the center. That's why you find us that we'll host webinars, we go physically, we also call for members to submit on written submissions. We consult with all the stakeholders, including the academia, the private sector, and the business associations. This we do because we recognize the importance of ensuring that we build a skills-based economy that is informed by the current challenges, but also the opportunities that are presented by the future that we have. As we do that, of course, we make sure that we deal with the red tape. As I indicated, that we have developed the red tape reduction framework that was approved. Of course, it goes up to 28-29. It serves as the structured implementation roadmap, guiding phased interventions. And these interventions focus on criteria relating to reducing compliance burdens, streamlining and shortening licensing and the registration process, and advance the digitization of regulatory services. A key area of focus remains the reduction of duplication and inefficiencies
Honourable
in
Minister,
municipal
your time
regulation.
is now expired. Thank you. Yes, Honourable Member, why do you want to be recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just could the table just confirm that the translation services are working, because we couldn't get any translation at all. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Honourable Douglas. I also missed the first part of the follow-up question of the Honourable Member. Can we just ensure that translation services is operational? The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Lutuli.
Ngiyabonga ukuxosha leli thuba ngisukuma nokuthi ngicela ukuwuhoxisa umbuzo wami ngoba uminister ngabe ngimphindisele emuva mangibuza into asevele sengichazela ukuthi lokhu kuzokwenzeka nini. Ngiyabonga.
Honorable Minister, I don't know if you got the question because the translation didn't come through. And then secondly, the sound quality was very poor. I think that must be attended to so that we can have a meaningful engagement between the members and the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister?
House Chairperson, the honorable member was indicating that he is covered. I've responded to the things that he was concerned about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, assisting for the translation services as well, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister, I'm not sure if that is indeed order. That question or the input, order, Honorable Members. No, I'm not going to recognize you. That was a follow-up question from the IFP. Is there another member from the IFP who want to confirm that indeed that is what the Honorable Member said? Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Yes, indeed. That is exactly what the Honorable Member was saying.
Thank you, Honorable Chief Whip of the IFP. Are you members of the IFP? Why do you want now to be recognized? Or have we not been informed of certain changes?
But I'm a member of parliament. Can I bring order in this house?
No.
But I'm allowed, Chairperson.
No, it's not.
Chairperson.
Which rule are you quoting?
No, Chairperson, I'm raising on the point of order, Chairperson.
What is the point of order based on which rule?
Okay, Chairperson. The point of order, the first, remember that this is not working. The translation, there is a translation right now that is happening. When is that going to happen?
No, Honorable Member, that's not a point of order. No. And I've ruled on the matter. The Chief Whip of the IFP have interceded on behalf of his member whose question it was, why do you now want to have another different interpretation? It has been confirmed. I'm not going to recognize you, Honorable Member. I'm going to move on with the question session. The fourth supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Ngobeni.
Thank you, House Chair. Nakinale Party, I always come after the antics of the MKP. But anyway, Minister Ndabeni,
The antics.
for as long as I've interacted with you, I know now that you're an avid advocate for the adherence to the laws and the regulations. You always remind the committee about laws and regulations. So my question is, where there is clear evidence of ongoing non-compliance, including businesses operating outside the conditions of their permits or outside applicable trading requirements, how does the department work with other organs of state to ensure that the regulatory framework delivers real protection to compliant South African-owned businesses? So said differently, what's in place to ensure that lawful businesses are not disadvantaged by weak or inconsistent enforcement, particularly in the informal economy? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair, and thank you to Honorable Ngubeni. Indeed, the reports that we have gathered, not only on the research, but as we continue to engage with the municipalities and the informal traders, there's a clear indication that those that are not compliant, indeed, they are victimizing in a way, or it's unfair trade, actually, if I were to put it in the right language, that they're exercising. And one of the things that we have looked at is to say, how do we work closely with municipalities that must ensure that they do the permitting and licensing of the businesses, but strengthen also collaborations with the Department of Home Affairs, which is responsible for the Immigration Act, which regulates who can access the business visa if a non-South African. Just like working with the Department of Employment and Labor to ensure that those that are working, indeed, the quotas are really met or compliant. Now, this requires not only that collaboration with the departments, but for it to be cascaded to the lower levels. That's why we have provincial coordinating committees that are looking at all the aspects that affect fair trade and unfair trade. But at the center of that is the participation of the informal traders themselves and the business licensing policy that had been approved, which has informed the development of the bill that we're working on, which will table in this parliament and committee that seeks to minimize the impact of those unfair trade practices. Of course, Honorable Member, the Parliament is still has to approve the appointment of the Small Enterprise Ombudsman, which has delayed implementation by this House because of the differences that are there. But again, once that is appointed, we are certain that he'll be able to, he or she will be able to deal with the unfair trade practices that are introduced by the different sectors in our own country. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Kruger.
Thank you, Chairperson. South Africa, Minister, does not have a shortage of entrepreneurs. They have a surplus of red tape. Parliament cannot continue to pass legislation while ignoring the cumulative impact of red tape on economic survival. If we are serious about job creation, then we must be serious about removing the barriers that prevent businesses from starting, growing, and employing. Will the Minister agree that this Parliament must come up with a political solution to reform red tape and a comprehensive review of regulatory burdens affecting MSMEs across all spheres of government?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much again, House Chair. Honorable Kruger, as I indicated, that not only we have developed the red tape reduction framework, but we have put measures in place in order to deal with the red tape. I further indicated that the engagements that we have had through the LED summit also meant to strengthen the efforts towards reducing red tape. I don't believe that Parliament really has to set up a committee simply because when Parliament does this work, it doesn't mean that automatically it's going to be in the APP. And that will delay the work that already we have tabled to Parliament to say, we're forging ahead with our efforts to deal with red tape. We are bringing all the ecosystem players. As I indicated earlier, we have identified 26 pieces of legislation which we are devising strategies to deal with them in terms of how do we repeal some of those clauses and introduce certain legislations that are required. All we are asking from honorable members is that they must support the legislative amendments that we'll be making so that we fast track the reduction of the red tape as it requires an omnibus bill to deal with 26 and not to deal with those in a piecemeal situation. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Question number 340 has been asked by the Honourable Malamacha to the Minister of Small Business Development. The question is, given that micro, small and medium enterprises contribute substantially towards employment creation and the overall gross domestic product, what are the strategic drivers to support and promote the participation by MSMEs in the productive sectors of the economy, such as manufacturing and the agro-processing industry? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much, House Chair. MSMEs and cooperatives play a critical role in growing the economy, especially the productive sectors, and of course, they contribute to the country's industrialization efforts. Building up and developing supply chains in manufacturing and agro-processing, as well as in other productive sectors such as mining, promotes overall sector competitiveness and growth, and they create jobs and economic inclusion. In sectors such as agro-processing, We ensure that MSMEs are not confined to the role of low-cost outgrowers, but also participate in the higher value-adding segments of the value chain. Our approach as the portfolio is centered on three strategic drivers: the market access, the access to finance, and skills, productivity, and technology. We all know, honorable members, that several interventions that have been put by government to deal with market access have not yet yielded the positive results, which is why you see the work that is being undertaken by Minister Pakstow and ourselves in order to make sure that we also look at other countries that are able to open up markets. But we do plead with honorable members to understand that the first market opportunity are themselves when they consume and buy products that are locally produced by the small businesses of our country, whilst you are trying to get the big corporates to diversify and unbundle their value chains. Of course, as I indicated, that skills are critical, including technology absorption, not only consuming technologies that come outside South Africa, but also taking interest in locally designed and innovated products, which is why we are working with the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation in order to make sure that we're able to commercialize some of the work that is being done. All of this will then give us competent entrepreneurs that must be able to take up the market opportunities. At the center of this is access to finance that everybody is concerned about. The IMF estimates that South Africa has a credit gap of about 370 billion rands, and my budget is just 3 billion rands. This requires that we then collaborate with all the other ecosystem players, try to work towards a concentration and consolidation of the efforts that go towards supporting small businesses, which is why you see us having programs like the TREP, the Asset Assist Program, and many others that seek to reduce the burden by providing certain support like equipment and, of course, when necessary, credit guarantees, wholesale program, and others. The third driver, of course, that is very critical, is the one that says they may be there, funding may be there, but they may not meet the requirements, which is why we designed the funding policy for MSMEs and cooperatives, which amongst the other recommendations is to ensure that we develop our own credit guarantee process that will look into the design of the movable collateral registry to now be able to add other assets that are not included when you're going to ask for money. And all of this is the work that we do with National Treasury, the World Bank, and ourselves consulting other DFIs in the country and the entrepreneurs themselves to say it's high time that we increase the funding opportunities for our MSMEs. Thank you so much, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Malamacha.
Thank you once more, House Chair. The Minister, what are the existing and potential financial, institutional, and regulatory levers to upscale and diffuse interest of MSMEs into the productive sectors of the economy and ensure inclusive economic development and job creation in both urban and rural areas? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Honorable Madam Major, we are committed to ensuring that rural and township MSMEs are integrated in the value chains of the productive economy. We had reported that we had disbursed about 2.1 billion rands between 2019 and the last administration. Out of that 2 billion rands, 1.25 billion went to rural MSMEs. 380 million went to township-based MSMEs. Similarly, with the manufacturing sector, wherein we disbursed 2.3. Since 29, 750 million rands went to township enterprises and 432 million to rural enterprises. This clearly indicates our resolve and commitment to transforming our own economy with the little resources that we have. Since 2019, we have allocated just under R1 billion to youth-owned MSMEs in the productive sectors of our economy and 1.35 billion to women-owned businesses. We're currently expanding the TREP to focus on manufacturing and agro-processing, targeting the small-scale production, food processing, and light manufacturing. In agriculture and urban farming, wherein we target community gardens, poultry, and small-scale farming. All of this They are meant to ensure that small businesses are not left behind, but most importantly, they give access to those that have been previously disadvantaged, whilst we are here as government to say we support them in a manner that we best know how. Our position again is simple. If we do not radically increase levels of participation of township and rural MSMEs and cooperatives in our productive sectors of the economy, we will never achieve our growth target of above 3%. I would like to pause there.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Kruger.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister. Given the findings of the AG that the department consistently failed to measure and verify actual job creation and often rely on unreliable or incomplete performance indicators, what specific standardized measurement framework will the department implement to quantify real sustainable jobs created by MSMEs in the productive sectors such as manufacturing and agro processing, and of course financed by the taxpayer? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Ihab. All right, the AGSA, as you are citing them, they've applauded lots of interventions that we have made as the portfolio. But of course, just like we had reported in this parliament, that we are now partnering with Stats SA in order to make sure that we produce evidence-based interventions to respond to the challenge that has been identified by AGSA. We are not folding arms. Stats SA is busy as we speak. We continue to work with SSIR and many other institutions of higher learning. This is why we have partnered with the 26 universities, the Deans of Commerce, to say, by nature, universities are products of research. Therefore, we would like to partner with them so that we expand the knowledge that we must get in relation to the sector as per the different segments and the other areas that the honorable member spoke about. Thank you so much, House Chair.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Matulelwa.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister, how does the department account for the continued underspending? Njengoba ke kuloko kuphindiselwa imali ezokuphuhlisa osomashishini abakhasayo ku-National Treasury. The high vacancy rates apho uhluleka ukuqesha permanently your implementing officers, your CEO of the SETFA, and all the people on the trap that we are talking about, Abosis Nokuleko, Mushomi in Gauteng, and others. And a weak internal capacity within the department, while MSMEs in manufacturing and agro-processing remain systemically excluded for finance and markets. Njengoba ke nangoku nithumelele bonke aba-applyele i-asset assist hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs across the country.
Honourable
An
Member, your time
automated
has now
message
expired.
that says
Thank you.
baninzi abantu aba-applayileyo kodwa niwubekanga umlinganiselo wabantu omele ba-apply.
You may respond, Honourable Minister.
Enkosi mhlali ngaphambili. Honorable Matulelo une-mischief. Uhlala apha eParliament ekomitini sipresente ibudget yethu uba yimalini. Ayive into yoba sine-219 million rands for asset assist that goes up to 250,000 per beneficiary. And when we receive more than 16,000 applications, she believes that we can be able to afford to really give those entrepreneurs everything. Unfortunately, because of the budget that we have, we're not able to fulfill the demand. That's why earlier on I spoke to the credit gap that has been estimated, and further to indicate that we're trying to consolidate efforts as government to say, how do we increase the funding for small businesses so that we're able to reach majority of the entrepreneurs? Earlier in the committee, as I explained, I did indicate that we're exploring measures wherein we provide shared economic infrastructure to the entrepreneurs of our country as we deal with the pressures of funding that we are faced with. We are not having high vacancy rate, Honourable Member, you know that. We still complain between the 5%. Of course, we can't account for the people that resign every day. Indeed, the issue of the acting CEO is being finalized by the board. As we explained to Parliament, that it's important that we do it systematically. We couldn't have everyone new in the agency because you are collapsing the agency if you do that. It was important for the acting CEO to be the last position to be filled in. Hence, we filled all the other group executive positions. We did not applaud us for that. And all of them, they're in place, CFO, CIO, and the many others. Now, when we come back to Parliament, we'll finalize the process of the appointment of the CEO, whoever that will be recommended and approved. Thank you so much, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The fourth supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Ghana.
Naken Samtramashtul. Minister, around this time last year, you announced the 500 million fund for the spaza shops. It's now over 12 months. How has the uptake of that fund been, and whether you are considering now that there's the agro-processing, because most of the stuff that the spaza shops sell, it's within the small manufacturing and agro-processing. Are you looking at repurposing the money that has not been claimed from the 500 million towards agro-processing and manufacturing? And how much is still left in the fund that you announced last year? Thanks.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much. I like the idea that you're sneaking in your proposal, Sonpek. Of course, we stood here and announced the 500 million, and as I reported repeatedly in this house, that we've been so disappointed that many of the South Africans that have tried to register were fronting for non-South Africans. This will therefore tell you that we're not going to be able to just spend at a go, as we need to verify, because this is taxpayers' money, that we need to make sure that it is utilized effectively towards benefiting South African-owned spaza shops. I would not consider, as things stand, repurposing the fund, because we strongly believe that there's a need to reclaim the township economy, especially the spaza shops. They need to belong to South Africans, whilst we're looking at the other aspects in the value chain of the spaza shop economy that we're talking about, the agro-processing. Hence, I mentioned earlier that we have interventions on TREP that are trying to address those gaps. We do believe that we've got to strengthen efforts towards helping small businesses to be able to be compliant, which is why we're working closely with the municipalities. As I indicated, we hosted the LED Summit with clear tangibles that must be delivered in the 18 months. And at the center of that, our municipalities trying to really ease the permitting and licensing process by small businesses. There's others that have been trained. Numbers are trickling in. Honorable Matulelo was sharing 27 from Ekurhuleni. We have others in Northwest, where in provinces they've taken initiative in the municipalities to say they're going to assist them with training. We continue to see again in the Eastern Cape, Buffalo City, and the other municipalities. So the numbers are going to be increasing. Hence, we're just waiting for the verification of the owners that are applying. Thank you so much, Austria.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. And the last supplementary question will go to the Honourable Malamacha.
Thank you again, once more, House Chair. Minister, ke saboseletša ke re mmušo ola wa kgale wa apartheid a sankane o tuo o dumetše gore batho ba borena ba be kgauswi le lefeme ka mokgwa wa economy. Mme seo se dia gore nako ye ntši le ye nnyane ba dule ba ipotšiša gore ebe ba tla hwetša monyetla wa go fiwa gore le bona ba tshwane le bangwe na. Which are the targeted industrial sectors for MSMEs to contribute towards reindustrialization and growing industrial output in rural and township community as part of broader industrial spatial transformation for inclusive economic growth? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much, Chair. Honorable Marimecha, we are trying to make inputs towards reindustrializing our economy. Earlier on, I spoke of the repurposing of TREP, which targets small-scale farmers and manufacturers. This we do because we do believe that there's a great role to be played by MSMMEs, not only in growing the economy, but transforming it and then, of course, creating jobs. Our township and rural enterprise program talks to that, but also the business infrastructure support program targets rural and township-based businesses that are looking mainly in manufacturing amongst other responsibilities. As I indicated, this indicates our commitment in ensuring that we reclaim the township and rural economy, because small businesses, they continue to be excluded because it's going to be lack of compliance, which is why we are saying we're working with the MECs for economic development and the local municipalities to say, together, let's have business sites that are kept aside for small businesses. And when you do that, you look at the incentives that you can provide, whilst we provide the financial support and the non-financial support through equipment. All of this will promote industrialization and therefore help us create the jobs that we need, including in the mining sector, where previously we've been focusing on taking out raw products. Now we're saying we're coming to the party through our small enterprise manufacturing scheme in order to enable processing of the raw products. Thank you so much, Osho.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Go to the next one, also to you, Honorable Minister. Question number 392 has been asked by the Honorable Mchaba to the Minister of Small Business Development. The question is regarding the progress report of the Spaza Shop Support Fund presented to the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development, which indicated slow progress due to municipal licensing delays. What urgent steps has she taken in collaboration with the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs to expedite the process of issuing licenses, and which monitoring and evaluation mechanisms has the department put in place to ensure that the fund assists the intended beneficiaries? The Honorable Minister.
Enkosi mhlali ngaphambili. Kulonyaka mali upheleyo siye saqiniseka silisebe into yoba siyasebenza nesebe le COGTA, apho siye saxhasa omasipala abapha ku-45 across ii-provinces ezi-5, Northern Cape, Free State, Mpumalanga, Eastern Cape and Northwest. Ukubancedisa okanye ubaxhasa oko ibinto yokuba maba-adopte i-registration system, which is one of the challenges that most municipalities are faced with. When they need to permit or license, they still use manual processes. That collaboration is proving to be really productive because as we speak, we've had the mayors, about 80% of the councils committing that if we pay for the system itself, they will be able to pay for the usability of it by their own people. Now, the Department of Cooperative Governance conducted baseline assessments in selected intermediate city municipalities in order to identify the root causes of licensing delays. We are not the main department. I would be happy that one day the honorable members will ask the Department of COGTA to come and account on the regulation that is being done, the registration that is being done by the municipalities. All we can do is to collaborate where we can. And this has yielded results to support about 100 municipalities over this period, which is not sufficient, as we know that we have about 257 municipalities. We continue to engage with the LED units, including embarking on training programs for them to be capacitated in terms of how to roll out this work that is critically needed in our country. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Mchaba.
Honorable Minister, iziphi izindlela ozisebenzisayo ukubona ukuthi imali iyafika kosomabhizinisi bezitolo laphana ama-spaza shops emawadini? Okunye futhi ukuthi asibuze ukuthi ukangaki mhlambe wenza i-audit kulabo abanikezwe izimali ukuthola ukuthi ibona ngempela yini abathola izimali ngendlela efanelekile. Yiziphi izinyathelo ozithathayo noma ezithathwayo kulabo abatholakala ukuthi bathole imali ngendlela engafanelekile ukuthi ifinyelele kubo.
Yes. Honorable Minister.
Nkosi mhlali ngaphambili. Amabhizinisi esiwasapotayo ngawa-approve arejistariswa ngumasipala. Mandiqala apho. Le nto ithi ke ngoku not any of those would be a beneficiary that does not qualify. That's why we are slow at rolling out or dispersing funds, because we engage in a very detailed process of due diligence, trying to verify that the applicant indeed is the owner of the business. Earlier on, I made reference to abantu befront on the spaza shop. That is the work that we are doing with other parties, which is why I said, asikwazi ukuba sikhawulezise ukhupha imali yabarhafi noba kanjani. Yiyo le nto sisebenzisana nomasipala kunye namanye amasebe ukuqinisekisa uba imali yethu iya ebantwini ekungabo amele bayifumane. Ayithethi ukuthi ke le nto awekho amaqhophololo aqhubeleka nokuba ahambe ayofrantela oodali babo abangabantu abangamelanga ukuyifumana. Umzekelo abangabaseMzantsi Afrika kodwa bengamelanga uba bayaxhamla apha. Yiyo le nto sithe kwisitfa, sorry, digitize a system ibe linked ku-Home Affairs nasemapoliseni, so that we are able to pick up, including on the National Treasury side, we're able to pick up if when you declare your dividends and any other financial income, indeed, if we say this program is targeting businesses that have a turnaround a turnaround of about 3 million rands and you have above that, then it means you don't qualify. Now, linking the system with SARS, Home Affairs, National Treasury and others will really help us reduce the levels of cheating on the system. How often do we conduct M&E? We're trying to strengthen our M&E unit because we've been weak, which is why we are working closely with the LED units in the municipalities and the provinces in terms of the economic development agencies that are there, because we are a national department that does not have a footprint throughout the country. We're working with traditional leaders because they are custodians of rural economic transformation in their areas and economic development. So we said, let's strengthen in the rural areas, become our eyes and ears as partners in the work that we do, whilst we also work with other stratas. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Bilan Kulu.
Na khensa mutshami wa xitulu. Holobye, hi wihi mpfuno lowu n'wina tanihi ndzawulo mu wu endleke ku vona leswaku mi hunguta ku hlwerisiwa ka mimpfumelelo kumbe ti-licenses aka timasipala? Ene eka timasipala, eka swibindwabindwani kumbe ti-spaza shops, naswona i mabindzu mangani lama mi ma pfuneteke ku ta fika sweswi tanihiloko mi sungule ku va pfuna hi swa timali? Na khensa swinene holobye, inkomu.
Honorable Minister.
Na khensa. As the department, we have implemented several targeted interventions to reduce the delays in the municipal process of licensing the spaza shops, as I've articulated earlier on. Of course, the first thing that we did outside the registration support was to advocate for the introduction of conditional licensing, which allows qualifying spaza shops to operate while waiting for the final compliance requirements by the respective municipalities. The provision of health and safety standards are met, which is why the collaboration between the Department of Health and others that are participating in the space became critical. Again, we're promoting the adoption of digital and electronic licensing systems in order to improve efficiency and reduce manual processing delays at municipal level. We strengthen collaboration with municipalities themselves in order to accelerate license validation processes and improve the turnaround times. We conduct provincial engagements to align municipalities, address bottlenecks, and encourage a more developmental and facilitative approach to licensing. As at the 4th of May, The fund had received about 4,526 applications from our own budget of 150 million rands, which will support 2,408 spaza shops. So far, 990 spaza shops have been approved for the support, with training and funding provided to 728 spaza shops to the stock value of 29.1 million and point of sale devices to the value of 15.4 million. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Creer, you may ask the next supplementary.
Thank you, Chairperson and Minister. Minister, access to Spaza Shops Fund depends on being correctly licensed. In most of the country, especially beyond the Western Cape municipalities, can barely keep the lights on, taps running, and the roads fixed. When businesses try to get their licenses, they are faced with endless delays and corrupt officials. How does the minister think these municipalities will be able to cope with handling red tape reform?
Honorable Minister.
Manqale Ntuthuko, Honorable Kruger, as we indicated, that we continue to engage with all the spheres of government in order to increase access to the Spaza Fund, which he clearly articulates that it has been compromised by lots of challenges at the municipal level. In all the other questions, I've responded on how we are dealing with that challenge in order to help the municipalities to be able to do the work that they're supposed to do. I must indicate that if you go to a eThekwini, they have a properly run system that comes from the municipality to the businesses, automated, on time, and we've taken this to other municipalities to say this is what we can use to showcase and a good benchmarking mechanism of the work that we do. It has been successful because there's collaboration between businesses themselves, community members that support the Spaza Shop, and of course, a constituency that is clear that they have to produce their own food whilst collaborating with big corporates. And this is why we continue to praise what the city of eThekwini has done. Corrupt officials are found everywhere, unfortunately, which really undermines the efforts that government puts in place in order to empower small businesses. And this is why I spoke about an automated system that must have linkages to all the other critical departments, so that where evidence of such is reported, we're able to immediately alert the law enforcement officers to deal with those corrupt individuals in the respective areas. But once you remove the person, at least you are reducing that capability of corruption, because it's a system that will be interacting with the entrepreneur. That's why we continue to advocate for the digitization of the systems in order to remove the corruption that we can get from those that are here.
Thank you,
Thank you
Honorable
so much.
Minister. Honorable Kahula, the next opportunity has been allocated to you.
Mamela Minister. Minister, umhlaba wonke uyawubona uyanyakaza ngenxa yama-tuck shop abawabonayo abantu bangaphandle. Wona uzibona unganakiwe la eSouth Africa noma yileli parliamente, kunakwe abantu bangaphandle. Minister, kunombuzo engifuna ungiphendule ngawo. Ukuthi why ungatsheli ohlangana Zulu noma nabantu abamashayo emadolobheni abalwisana nalaba bantu bangaphandle bokufika kumabhizinisi ukuthi kunemali ewu-5 billions lena ekhishwa amazwe angaphandle ewakhiphela abantu abakulelizwe abazohweba kanjalo nama-permit resident. Umbuzo permanent resident.
Umbuzo wami ke
Thank
kuwe.
you, Honorable Kaula.
Why abantu babuke wena bayashaya
Honorable
iphoyisa
Kaula.
esenyuka emgwaqweni. Wena uthula awuyi kochaza
Mama
ukuthi labantu
Kaula.
badla ngokusemthethweni. Phendula.
Honorable
Liyakuphe
Kaula, I'm going
KZN.
to switch off your mic now if you don't listen. Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, House Chair. Umhloniphe kukhawula uyayazi kakuhle njengelungu elenza umthetho apha. Intoba umphathiswa ojongene nokuphuhlisa amashishini akhasayo akanalo ilungelo lokwenza lento athetha ngayo. Lo msebenzi athetha ngawo athi 5 billion, that is a determination for those that must get a business visa. It's 5 million rands. Under the Immigration Act, Section 22, it is administered by the Department of Home Affairs, not the Department of Small Business Development. Ngiyabonga mhlonipheki.
Thank you. We return to either the Honorable Nshaba or the Honorable Kwabasha.
Minister, ufuna ukutshena lendlu, utshene nabantu base South Africa, ukuthi i-department yakho ayizukwazi ukusebenza uma omasipala bengasebenzi. Njengoba omasipala base South Africa, abaphethwe i-GNU, ANC, IFP, bewa kunje namhlanje. Uthi wena abantu ke bala eSouth Africa angeke baze bayithole imali yamaspaza shop ephuma kwi-department yakho ngenxa yalezi elama department. Lana eWestern Cape, yonke iWestern Cape, they are the last people abaregister ama-spaza shops lana. La omasipala bakhona abafuni abantu abamnyama. Wenzani ngalokho? Uzokwenza njani futhi ngeWestern Cape ukuthi uyi-held accountable ukuthi abantu abamnyama bama-spaza shop bangayitholi le mali yakho?
Yeah, Honorable Minister, just before I hand over to you, can the table staff just again ask that whoever is responsible for, I think it's the isiZulu translation, just either sit closer to their microphone or that they get a replacement microphone. It's really very faint. Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, House Chair. Umhlonishwa uma elalele kahle ngoba engichaza. I said we have hosted the Local Economic Development Summit, which sought to bring all municipalities to understand their role in enabling small businesses to thrive in their respective areas. At the center of that is the development of bylaws that support smaller enterprises, is effective systems that must be in place in order to get these businesses to be licensed and registered. I further said, one of the recommendations that have been made in the summit is a commitment to an 18-month program that municipalities must say by 6 months' time, this is what they are going to do. And ourselves, as the department, which is the sponsor of the sponsorship fund, we committed to paying for a system that must assist the municipalities with registration. Lokho ke kusho ukuthi ngifuna ukuthi imali yethu ichithwe kahle kubantu baseMzantsi Afrika. And of course, angeze sibavumele omasipalati abazawuvimbela amabhizinisi wethu ukuthi afumane lesi sixhaso esizisa kubo uma size eKapa noma siseThekwini nakuphi na noba ngenye imini ungathiwa kukho i-coalition ne-MKP sizolwa uma ngaba nivimbela ama-small business. Ngiyabonga. Gwaza.
Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members. Question number 372 has been asked by the Honorable Khoza to the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. The question is, what consequence management has been taken against Industrial Development Corporation officials who are responsible for approving high-risk transactions despite internal warnings, and by what date will the Minister table a full transparent report in the National Assembly outlining the actions taken against those who were held accountable? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. The month of May is the month where the ITC celebrates 86 years since its establishment. And the ITC has and continues to support and catalyze industrial development in the country. We must be cognizant that the ITC's role is evolving from being a traditional direct lender towards becoming a platform for industrial ecosystem development, mobilizing capital, partners, and capability to unlock high-impact sectors and rebuild South Africa's industrial base. The ITC does not exist in a vacuum. The board has a responsibility to address the negative and real challenges experienced by business. There are concerns we do not take for granted. Through the ITC's chairperson, I've tasked the board with the responsibility to solve these challenges through an agreed upon approach that has strict timelines and measurable milestones. We've agreed with the portfolio committee under the leadership of Honorable Mzwandile Masina to report back to Parliament periodically. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Koza, you have the opportunity to, well, it's not Honorable Koza. Honorable Member, please continue.
Okay, I'll take the question. Minister, have you initiated any steps that would lead to the recovery of any or all financial losses incurred as a result of specific transactions? If so, what are the details and amounts recovered to date? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I should say that even with the follow-up question and the initial question, there's a lot of ambiguity. We are not sure as to what specific transactions you are referring to for us to say this is the course of action. We assumed, of course, in the initial reply that this has to do with matters that have been in the public domain and the action we're taking to resolve those issues. We committed to the portfolio committee and we've met with the board and stakeholders and agreed to establish an ad hoc committee of the board of the ITC, chaired by a member of the board constituted by external expertise to investigate these matters. It is at the point of receiving that report that we would be able to determine what recourse and action to take. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Mosekatsi, you may ask the next supplementary question.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, will the new independent panel review all high-risk deals at the IDC, including the BEE deals, and will their findings be released? And how is the governance and financial control coupled with the review of the investment structure intended to achieve greater efficiency at the institution? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Firstly, let me say that it would be inappropriate to suggest that all BEE deals necessarily need to be reviewed. Currently, the ITC disperses funds to a number of enterprises, including Black-owned enterprises. And in fact, there's been an increasing number of Black enterprises that receive funding from the ITC. There are specific allegations that have been leveled, and our responsibility is to ensure that those allegations are investigated. But we do not intend to go on a process of literally reviewing every transaction. Otherwise, we'll literally collapse the ITC in terms of its ability to do the rest of its work. But we've agreed that to the extent that there are concerns about particular transactions, this should go through a process, and this process should yield the results, and we'll take action from them. We've also agreed with the board on processes to improve governance in the ITC, including greater and closer oversight of those functions and transactions that are delegated to management that do not necessarily go to the board because of the size of the transaction, so that the board is able to have greater oversight and the ability to mitigate challenges if and when these arise. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The third follow-up has been allocated to you, Honorable Chance.
Thank you, House Chairperson, and thank you, Minister, for your answers. The meeting this morning of the Portfolio Committee, where the IDC and the board were presenting their strategic plan, was very interesting for the fact that it did declare a 35% impairment rate on its loan book. And it said that it was a high-risk taking organization compared to DFIs from other countries which look at maybe a 25% impairment rate, whereas the banks generally have a 1% impairment rate. So these high-risk transactions come at a cost. And I want to know, Minister, whether you have considered the need to recapitalize the IDC to enable it to fulfill its DFI function and to enable sustainability in the long term. And if so, whether you will be recommending to Cabinet how that recapitalization would take place. Would it be through state funding or would it be through private sector partnerships? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. We have been working together with the department and the ITC to consider mechanisms of increasing its ability to extend facilities to business in the country. This has included international partnerships. The ITC has entered into memoranda of understanding and partnerships with various international enterprises, particularly DFIs, most notably recently with their counterparts in Spain, Brazil, China, and other parts of the world. And this would enable direct partnerships to finance enterprises that either come into the country or are in the country. So it's both about foreign direct investment, but also the ability to finance local enterprises. We have also made proposals to National Treasury around how the ITC could be recapitalized and what mechanisms could be investigated. We've also directed the board to look at alternative ways of getting the ITC capitalized through partnerships with the private sector without compromising its ability to be a development finance institution. We will be able to report back based on the studies currently underway as to the course of action in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable Kwabaza, you may ask the fourth supplementary question.
Honorable Minister, by now you have been made aware of the disturbing pattern at the IDC, where many companies have filed complaints of being improperly treated by and being bankrupt by the actions of the IDC officials. Please confirm that you understand the gravity and the seriousness of this allegation and that you will not merely try to shield the IDC from possible legal action, but that you will get to the bottom of this matter. Have you considered instituting a parliamentary inquiry into the rot at the IDC? By now, you should have appointed the external forensic expert to probe the drastic allegations that have been alleged against the IDC, even if it is in form a parliamentary view that will enable you to consider appropriate action. What have you done?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
The Industrial Development Corporation continues to finance various enterprises, and the majority by far of transactions that it enters into have not been raised for questioning. And it's an important statement to make because we risk placing the ITC under scrutiny as if every transaction is being questioned. There are specific allegations that have been raised. They do not constitute even 5% of the transactions, both in terms of volume and amount that the ITC is involved with. To the extent that we need to investigate those transactions, we have agreed with the board and reported to the portfolio committee that has agreed on that course of action to constitute an ad hoc committee of the board chaired by a member of the board and constituted by external expertise, including forensic, legal, and others. On the basis of their investigation, they would be able to report to us. You must remember, not every allegation necessarily would come out with a response that says it is true. It is possible that there are allegations, and so at some point we've had those allegations where people say, I've been treated in this way, and the ITC demonstrates that, but you have missed the covenants between us and yourself, and therefore you are liable for a whole range of things. So you have to look at every case on merit and determine what course of action. You can't take, if you like, double up and just deal with everything in one fell swoop. You have to deal with them individually, meticulously, and ensure that every case is investigated on its own merit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Tembekwayo, we return to you for the last supplementary.
Minister, what specific measures have been implemented to strengthen internal control, risk management frameworks, and accountability mechanisms within the IDC to prevent the recurrence of such conduct? On the same note, how would you prevent those overriding internal high-risk warning regarding money laundering by simply resigning, thereby avoiding accountability? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Resigning should not and does not mean that you can evade accountability. If there are specific individuals who are under investigation and choose to resign, that should not constitute the end of that investigation. And that is our position in that regard. With regards to strengthening oversight, control, and the overall control environment, I have indicated that we've agreed with the board, one, to investigate. And on the basis of that investigation, we'll also be able to determine the systemic issues that would come out of that so that we're able to improve the control environment. Secondly, we would be able to, we have also said to the board it is important that we have greater oversight on those transactions that are not within the purview of the board so that you are able to have line of sight into those transactions. Without taking over the role of management, it is important that you have periodic reporting and are able to exercise oversight on those functions that have been delegated so that you're able to improve the control environment. And those are the steps that we have immediately undertaken. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable members, question number 341 has been asked by the Honorable Masina to the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. The question is, what are the main themes incorporated into the industrial policy to drive local industrialization and export, and by what date will the industrial policy be presented to Parliament to ensure its approval for implementation? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much to the Portfolio Committee Chair, Honorable Masina. Firstly, I think it is important to reaffirm that government has been executing the industrial policy since the dawn of democracy. This policy and pragmatic continuity have been evident in the work of recent administrations. For the seventh administration, it was important to consolidate this policy journey through the 2026 Industrial Development Strategy, whose task is to assemble feasible, coordinated industrial policy packages that align instruments with priorities and unlock coordination failures so that firms invest, learn, and upgrade. Our strategic pathways are centered around the 3 Ds, which are decarbonization, which is a focus on transitioning industrial production towards low-carbon technologies, cleaner energy systems, and climate-resilient processes, amongst others. Diversification with the aim of expanding the productive base beyond traditional resource-intensive activities to deepening value chains, fostering new industrial sectors, strengthening agro-processing services and regional value chains, and also diversifying trading partners and export destinations. And thirdly, digitalization through embedding digital technologies across industries to raise productivity, enable innovation, improve scale and coordination, and position South Africa competitively in digital services and knowledge-intensive activities. The industrial policy has undergone the cluster process and was tabled to Cabinet on the 25th of February. When Cabinet approved that the DTIC enhance this industrial policy with an emphasis on the historical context to the new industrial policy, an international comparative study, the nature and kind of policy choices and trade-offs that should be made. I should say, Honorable Chairperson, that we were due to present this today in Cabinet, but because Cabinet ran into the time of Parliament, it was agreed that this would still go to Cabinet at a special meeting that would be convened. On the basis of that, we can indicate when we would be able to report to Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Masino.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the comprehensive question. Perhaps the follow-up question is, can we assure the people of South Africa that the industrial policy, together with various master plans, will consolidate efforts towards beneficiation and value addition at source? Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, and thanks once again to the committee chair. We certainly can reassure South Africa that in fact there is a greater focus on ensuring industrialization at source, beneficiation, and value addition at source, in particular in South Africa. This is also in line with the critical mineral strategy that we've adopted that has indicated a greater emphasis on getting industrialization at source. And when you look at the elements of the industrial policy, they seek to leverage our mineral wealth. Amongst others, we're talking about decarbonization, including ensuring that we are able to tap into the resource base of the country for clean and green technologies. And similarly, with regards to rare earth metals, we should be able to focus on digital technology and other industries, including defense, that would be able to take advantage of this. And this is a specific focus area in the industrial policy. Thank you very much.
Honorable Chance, the second supplementary has been allocated to you.
Thank you, House Chair. And once again, thank you, Minister, for your replies. However, when you presented your policy, the first version of the policy to Cabinet at the end of last year, it was apparently rejected because it wasn't driving growth sufficiently. The CEO of Business Leadership South Africa, Buzi Mavuzo, has said, and I quote, Minister Parkstow's department is seemingly becoming a source of policy uncertainty, and that is actively driving investment away. The proposed amendments to BEE regulations are a recent example, close quote. Minister, when will you realize that a full and fully independent investigation into the impact of BEE is well overdue? And what steps are you taking to put that independent investigation into place? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Firstly, let me say you should not believe every rumor, even if your colleagues might sit in cabinet from your party. That rumor is certainly not true. I had a discussion with Ms. Musima also this morning with regards to the article that she penned. We've agreed to convene a meeting to deal with what we've both agreed are unintended, possible unintended consequences of Statement 400 in particular, which is the review of the section that deals with enterprise and supplier development. And we've agreed that we would meet between ourselves, the Business Leadership South Africa, and Business Unity South Africa to engage on these matters. But actually, Member Chance, no amount of fighting broad-based Black economic empowerment will make the truth run away from us. And that truth is the significant progress we've made as a country in integrating Black people into the mainstream of the economy. This can be evidenced through employment equity, management control, enterprise and supply development, equity participation in various transactions. Now, only those that do not want to see it will claim that it has not worked. Actually, if you think about it, when you're talking about South Africa's economic future, you have to think about it within the context of an economy that services the entire populace of South Africa. You can only talk about regression because you would only want white people to own the means of production in this country. Black people have an equitable right to economic participation in this country, and broad-based Black economic empowerment is intended to do exactly that. That's about the freedom of our people. Our people are not just free because of their ability to vote, they are free because of economic emancipation. And that's a crucial part of the agenda of this government.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Gama, you may ask the third supplementary question.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable Minister, your colleagues at the back, they get excited when you get angry. You must get angrier. Honorable Minister, you'll agree with me that industrial policy is just headline rhetoric. You have been talking historically about gear, the new growth path, the 8-point plan, but consistently you have failed to deliver sustained job creation, meaningful GDP growth, and reduction in inequality and poverty. Abantu bakithi abanandaba namapolisi, bafuna imisebenzi. Abantu bakithi bafuna ukondla imindeni yabo. Abantu bakithi balambile bafuna isithunzi sabo ukuba sibuyiselwe kubo.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Nizokwenza
Your
nini
time has
lokho?
now
Kunokuthi
expired.
lokhu nikhuluma nje nithi
Thank
kune
you.
industrial policy into engathi shu.
Honorable Member, thank you. Honorable Minister.
I should admit I didn't expect that from Honorable Gam. And I'm saying I wouldn't have expected it because you don't determine by decree that there shall be jobs and jobs are there. It is not by decree, it is because you develop policy, you develop the instruments of implementation, you execute, and you get the result. It is not a decree, so you can't say, well, the people want jobs, therefore we decree that there shall be jobs. You have to develop the appropriate policies. Now, I'm very worried if, in fact, the orientation from your party is that this is by decree. No, it is not by decree. These policies are developed with the intention of achieving certain outcomes, which includes industrialization, growth, and job creation. Thank you very much.
Honorable Claudia Webster, you may ask the next supplementary question.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister, I'm very glad you spoke a little bit earlier about economic inclusion, particularly of the Black majority in this country. I say this because when we talk about industrial policy or industrialization, townships are often on the margins of this, and they're often bypassed even when it comes to funding for industrialization. Yet 40% of working age citizens in this country live in townships, yet 60% of the unemployed in this country live in townships. Yet spatial injustice, especially from an economic perspective, continues with the marginalization of Black people in this country who live in townships. My question is, first of all, there was a commitment in 2024 by the DTIC to consider extending special economic zones to townships. I want to know if that consideration is being incorporated into the industrial policy, but also if there's any firm commitment as this industrial policy is being developed for investment and for industrialization of townships.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Historically, Black townships continue to represent the reality of what apartheid has meant to Black people. They are spaces of exclusion, marginalization, and deprivation. And part of addressing the challenges of our country includes addressing the spatial disparity created by apartheid by investing not just in infrastructure, but economic infrastructure into our townships. And certainly we have agreed, as indicated, to include industrial parks and other initiatives in the townships as part of our spatial industrial policy. We have just signed off a revised spatial industrial policy for consultation. And this includes directly linking industrial parks, focusing on new industrial initiatives in townships, and ensuring that we're able to designate these in a manner that addresses the spatial exclusion, but also ensures that we're able to facilitate meaningful economic growth. It can't be that the townships are marginalized to being centers of retail. It must be that we also produce in these townships, the township-based enterprises are able to export to other countries. That is about meaningful transformation, and that is what that agenda is constituted of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Masina, you may ask the last supplementary question.
No, thank you very much. I think we are happy. The colleagues have covered many of the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable members, question number 373 has been asked by the Honorable Hunsinger to the Minister of Transport. The question is regarding allegations of corruption and irregularities in the general overall contract for the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa. What total value of funds awarded to contracts have been identified as irregular or improper by the Weber-Wenzel forensic report? Whether any services were delivered by the contractors at all? If not, why not? If so, what are the relevant details? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair. PRASA launched the General Overhaul GO program as a heavy maintenance initiative to extend the life of the existing yellow trains by 9 to 12 years. It enabled the refurbishment of critical components such as rotating machines, bogies, braking and traction systems, and coach body structures and internal systems. The GO program encountered challenges such as fragmented implementation, inconsistencies with regard to output and performance, and concerns of overpayment to some contractors. Following these concerns, and after receiving a written complaint from one of the GO contractors, in April 2024, PRASA commissioned a forensic investigation into the program. The investigation reported serious and systematic irregularities in the management of the program, such as corrupt relationships between PRASA employees and GO contractors, systematic overcharging and manipulated invoices, contraventions of the Prevention of Crime and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act and Prevention of Organized Crime Act by implicated individuals and contractors. Following the receipt of the forensic report, PRASA has initiated a number of interventions to address the challenges, including instituting disciplinary actions against all 13 implicated employees. 2 employees have already been dismissed for wrongdoing, and disciplinary hearings continue against 11 other implicated employees in the rolling stock value chain. Referrals of contraventions of PRECA and POCA violations to the South African Police Services and the SIU with supporting evidence, and in instances of overpayment of contractors, civil recovery pathways have been activated and breach notices and termination processes issued where warranted. With regard to the second question, PRASA is currently using general overhaul coaches and locomotives on non-electrified corridors. 60 GO coaches are already deployed in Kugombo and Gqeberha, with planned future deployment in Stanger, Worcester, Hammanskraal, and Vereeniging. Thank you.
Dr. Hunsinger.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, given the enormous sums concerned and the reality that many of these metro rail trains are rusting in train yards across the country, would you agree that the GO contract has not delivered value for money and that it should be scrapped immediately?
Honourable Minister.
No, Honourable Hassinger, I don't agree. We are using the trains on non-electrified lines. We have plans to use them on non-electrified lines in future. And I can share with you that at conferences involving rail in Southern Africa, there's a great deal of interest in leasing these trains because, as you would understand, many SADC countries don't have electrified lines. And you know that last year we put out a number of requests for information including to establish a ROSCO in PRASA. So I think that while we are deeply concerned about the issues that I have documented that were revealed in the forensic investigation, we do think that in due course we can put these trains to good use and we can recover money spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Nkopane, you may ask the second supplementary question.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Through you, I would like to ask the Minister, are there any recent legal financial actions taken through freezing payments to implicated contractors, initiating contract terminations with some on 30-day notice, or instructing legal counsel to pursue the civil recovery of overpaid funds? And how did such a breakdown of corporate governance and financial controls occur?
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. As I've explained, consequence management is still in process with regard to this contract. And so far, we have terminated one of the contracts of the 7 operational contracts due to breaches and non-performance. PRASA has appointed a service provider to quantify the losses due to overpaid funds, which will inform any further action against contractors. The remaining contractors' performance and compliance are being monitored under a revised governance framework. We're using a 5-pillar strategy to address the challenges, which pursues the recovery of overpayments, prepayments, or unearned value, and ensures that the entity's financial interests are secured. The pillars of this strategy include legal closure, capital recovery, internal governance and enhanced oversight and accountability, contractor triaging, whereby contractors that are underperforming or have performance or integrity challenges, we are redirecting their work to higher performing contractors. And of course, we are also extensively communicating with external stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. To ask the third supplementary question, I recognize the Honorable Kubeka.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, will the Minister depart from the false narrative of state capture, labeling and demonizing black businesses, and publish a transparent, publicly verifiable timeline with binding milestones, including black-owned procurement targets and independent oversight, and commit to a rapid, assistive mechanism to rectify and compensate any regulatory or administrative bottlenecks that happened prior to you taking over the ministry? And then just, Minister, tell us, what would happen if for once the government stood up on the side of the people? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Kubeka, I think that you'll have to take up the state capture narrative with the Zondo Commission, not with me. But I think that Transnet's commitment to employing black companies in their value chain is well documented and well known. And if you need further evidence, ask me a question for written reply. I'll give it to you.
I will. I will ask you that question, Minister.
Honorable Member, please don't do that. Dr. Letlape, you may ask the next supplementary question.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, what improvements have been made on contracting and tendering Are there any efforts in terms of international benchmarking for pricing? And would there be any efforts from the minister to ensure criminalization of overcharging and overpayment?
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Look, I think that when you get this kind of financial report, then you have to review your internal controls and your project governance. And one of the issues that we have said to the board is that it's necessary to review performance against the Public Finance Management Act and all relevant regulatory environments to ensure that PRASA Capital has implemented reviews that would include monthly progress reports on the implementation and recommendations of the forensic report findings, engagement with relevant stakeholders, including the GO contractors, to ensure that all parties are aligned with corrective measures and that any outstanding issues are resolved promptly, including establishing a project steering committee and contractor performance monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hansinger, we return to you for the last supplementary.
Thank you very much. Minister, allegations of impropriety similar to the GO program in PRASA contracts are rife. Most recently, investigative journalists have identified potential links to gang members in the security contracts of PRASA's Cape Town Central Line project. Will you commit to initiating a meaningful independent investigation on this scandal?
Honourable Minister.
I have already instructed the Group CEO to investigate those allegations.
Thank you. Honourable members, question number 342, which has been asked by the Honourable Nkopane to the Minister of Transport, has been withdrawn. Therefore, we will proceed to question number 343, which has been asked by the Honourable Hlongo to the Minister of Tourism. The question is, following the Special Investigating Unit investigation authorised by the President of the Republic, Mr. M.C. Ramaphosa, into the media buying contracts at SA Tourism, who has been held accountable and what steps have been taken against them? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, and thank you for the question. In early 2025, I wrote to the President requesting for a proclamation. The President responded on the 20th of October 2025 and signed the proclamation. I will attach the proclamation in the written answer. But just to summarize the allegations to be tested, 1, serious maladministration in connections with the affairs of the board, improper or unlawful conduct by employees of the South African Tourism Board, unlawful appropriation of expenditure for public money and property, unlawful, irregular or unapproved acquisitive act, intentional neglect, intentional or negligent loss of public money, any alleged offense under the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities, and lastly, unlawful or improper conduct by any person that has caused harm to the interests of the public of South Africa. Then the Gazette was published on the 21st of November 2025, and it covers a period of the 1st March 2020 up to November 2025. So we're going to go back and investigate 5 years of allegations. Also, the honourable member question only refers to the media contracts, but as I've detailed, the proclamation is much broader than that. And then, of course, the SIU will report to the president in accordance with Section 4G. And I'm informed that the SIU is still busy investigating. It's only thereafter where any steps to be taken that will emanate from the recommendations in the report of the SIU to the president. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable members, we've been informed that in terms of Rule 137.10a, the Honourable Maeku will take charge of the follow-up. I recognise the Honourable Maeku.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, noting the tragedy of leadership, instability, and leadership failures of the people you continue to appoint at South African tourism, how are you going to ensure that the entity builds internal capacity to root out corruption and creates a culture of ethical corporate governance and financial accountability in order to reduce reliance on the intervention of the president and such as bodies such as SIU? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Of course, all the executive management posts have been filled by now. They've employed a chief marketing officer, chief financial officer, head of internal audit, and they've all started working already. So we've got a full executive management team. In terms of getting a new board appointed, we started the process in 2025, and what will happen, it closed on the 5th of December 2025. We have now done the shortlisting. I have appointed a panel consisting of the public and the private sector to do the interviews during the month of May. During the month of June, I will follow the cabinet cycle and get it to cabinet in the month of July. So that process will be concluded still within this year of 2025. The capacity is on board now. I'm very happy with the performance of the current board. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Ishmael, you may ask the next follow-up question.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, thank you for your reply. Now, there's been ongoing forensic investigations. We have the Nkobani forensic investigation, we have the Abacus investigation, and now we have the SIU investigation. Considering the instability at SAT that is ongoing and hasn't actually, improved, Minister, particularly related to SAT's instability, would you then not agree with the Portfolio Committee's recommendation that you, in conjunction with the Minister of Finance, do a feasibility study to privatize SAT so as to ensure efficient and professional management going forward to improve the tourism sector of the country? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Ishmael. In response to the proposal from the Portfolio Committee, I think that the committee has not checked existing legislation. SA Tourism is an entity established in terms of the PMFA. It's a 3A entity. And if you want to change that entity to a public-private partnership, you have to go and amend the Tourism Act of 2014. So it will have to follow a long process after amending the Act, approved by Parliament, then we can change to another type of entity. So that is not possible. There is no instability. I think there's a perception that because we are dealing with all the allegations of corruption, which we must do, it's a situation you're damned if you don't and you're damned if you do. And we have to continue to protect the public purse. So there's no instability if we are dealing with the crooks, if we are trying to get rid of corruption. It can't be seen as instability. It must be seen protecting the public purse.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The third supplementary has been allocated to the Honourable N. Buthelezi.
House Chairperson, I'll be reading on behalf of Honorable Buthelezi. Minister, what specific disciplinary, civil, or criminal actions have been initiated against any officials or service providers implicated by the SIU? And what is the current status of those processes? If there has been no action taken, what is the justification for no action? Secondly, what are the steps that have been taken by the department to recover misappropriated or irregularly spent funds identified in the SIU investigation? And how much has been recovered to date? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Buthelezi. I have just mentioned now that the SIU work is still in progress. It is only when the SIU report to the president and make recommendations, from there action will emanate. But before that, we can't take any action. We have to wait for the investigation to be concluded. I thank you, Honourable Member.
Thank you. Honourable Basson, you may ask the next supplementary question.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, what measures has the department implemented to recover any financial losses occurred from the media buying contracts, and what process has been made in this regard?
Honourable Minister.
Honourable Basson, is the same question asked by Honourable Buthelezi, and I've just answered it. In my response, I have said that it's work in progress for the SIU. Once the SIU report to the president and make recommendations, only thereafter you can start doing disciplinary action, not before that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Maeku, we return to you for the last follow-up question.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm covered.
Thank you. Honourable members, question number 388 has been asked by the Honourable Bath to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. The question is, with reference to the work that has been undertaken since the start of the 7th administration to reform and strengthen the expanded Public Works Programme, or EPWP, what has he identified as the core problems within the EPWP, and what steps has his department taken to address these specified challenges? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson, and thank you, Honourable Bath, for the question. The Expanded Public Works Programme continues to play an important role in providing temporary income and work opportunities to millions of South Africans. However, extensive engagement through the national listening tours that spoke to nearly 4,000 people across the country has revealed deep systematic weaknesses that undermine its effectiveness and credibility. These are the key issues that we have encountered. The prevalence of corruption and abuse within EPWP is widespread, including practices such as bribery to secure placement, manipulation of beneficiary lists, and even instances of sexual exploitation. The existence of ghost beneficiaries and fraudulent participation further reflects weak oversight and accountability systems. An entrenched political patronage and gatekeeping has affected access to EPWP opportunities and is often controlled by local power structures, particularly councillors and branch committees, with positions reserved for politically connected individuals, friends, or family. This undermines fairness and excludes deserving participants who lack such connections. The recruitment process itself is largely informal and opaque, making it vulnerable to manipulation. There is limited ability to verify participants, track placements, or even ensure equitable distribution of opportunities. In many cases, the same individuals are repeatedly recycled to the program, while others remain excluded. Structurally, EPWP is also limited by its focus on short-term, low-skill work, and participants typically receive little to no formal training, certification, or meaningful workplace exposure, and as a result, they often exit the program without improved employability, remaining trapped in a cycle of poverty. Additionally, there is a weak link between EPWP participation and the broader labor market. There is no clear pipeline into permanent jobs and limited collaboration with the private sector. Combining this with poor monitoring at local government level, these issues reduce the program's long-term developmental impact. In response, we have launched the Working on Infrastructure pilot program as a reform initiative aimed at transforming EPWP into a pathway to permanent employment. A key reform is around the digitization of recruitment through the SA Youth platform, which removes the human gatekeeper element and thus enables fairer and more transparent access to opportunities. It also allows for participation, verification, tracking, and improved data management, helping to eliminate fraud and ghost beneficiaries. The pilot introduces longer placement periods of between 8 to 10 months, which is significantly more than the current 2 months, enabling participants to gain meaningful work experience and develop confidence, which restores dignity to them through job creation. This is being done in partnership with TVET colleges, accredited providers, as well as the private sector. We also place a linking participants to real employment opportunities, designing a pipeline into the labor market that is supported by partnerships with the private sector, such as organizations like Harambe. They are partners that play a role in training, mentoring, and ultimately absorbing participants into jobs. This initiative also aligns public employment with infrastructure maintenance needs, ensuring that the work undertaken is productive and contributes to national priorities. This is our firm signal that accountability, including potential withholding of funds where municipalities fail to address corruption, will be taken seriously by the department. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Bath.
Thank you very much for your response, Minister. Minister, given the serious concerns around political interference and the misuse of expanded public works program opportunities that have been raised across the country, can you confirm what concrete safeguards are being put in place to ensure that access to the expanded public works program opportunities are fair, transparent, and based on need and merit rather than political connection? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. House Chair, I think the key baseline for us is that access to EPWP or working on infrastructure must be fair and transparent. The biggest complaint is around the gatekeeping that takes place, particularly through local government and particularly through local councillors. So this program, particularly through the digitization that we are piloting, removes the interaction between EPWP participants and local councillors. And that is a critically important innovation of the program so that participants directly relate with the program itself and not through an intermediary. Because that's where we see the corruption, that's where we see the inability of fairness to take place. It's also why we have taken the strong stance that we have in the eThekwini municipality, where we have said that we are going to withhold the next transfer of funds in the next financial year if those issues of transparency, if those issues of ghost workers, if those issues of municipal employees who are receiving EPWP grants is not resolved through a council resolution. And so we really urge local government and municipalities to work with us and to partner with us to make sure that we safeguard this program, that we safeguard transparency, and that we ensure that everyone has an opportunity to go through this program, to improve their skill set, and then to ultimately get onto a pathway to a permanent job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Honorable Mahlangu, the next supplementary has been allocated to you.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister, how has the Minister ensured that
The shortfall of approximately 3 billion in the EPWP budget is made up through external funding for training and skilling programs via various SETAs. And if not, Minister, why not? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. I think the honourable member raises an important point, and the facts of the matter is that since 2023, EPWP has suffered a 30% budget cut. And so the department is expected to deliver 5 million work opportunities between 2024 and 2029, while the budget has reduced in its availability by 30% since 2023. And those two realities cannot coexist. So through the IMC that is chaired by the Deputy President, the issue of funding and the shortfall of funding in EPWP has been raised, and a meeting is being arranged through the Deputy President's office with the Minister of Finance and myself to be able to deal with that shortfall. In the meantime, we of course are not sitting on our laurels and waiting for that to take place. I absolutely agree that CETA money, particularly the construction CETA, which still teaches people how to hand mix concrete, which doesn't take place anymore today, that money would be much better spent, or at least part of it would be better spent in something like working on infrastructure, which teaches people real certifiable skills on site and on projects in conjunction with the private sector. So I think that that is a very good idea. We hope that we would be able to get the support, particularly of the Minister of Higher Education, to be able to make some of that funding available to us, to partner with us in our pilot project. We will be going to launch the next leg in Limpopo province in June, which we are really looking forward to, and hopefully we'll be able to have some further details and information that we'll make available at the launch there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The third opportunity has been allocated to the Honourable P. Mkhize.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Honorable Minister, while you speak about reforms and strengthening the EPWP, the lived reality on the ground tells a different story. Thousands of young people remain trapped in short-term, low-paying opportunities that do not translate into sustainable employment. Can you explain why, after years of this program, the EPWP still functions more as a revolving door of temporary relief rather than a pipeline into permanent jobs? Are we to understand that the EPWP is measured by how many times the same disparate individuals are rotated through temporary jobs rather than how many are permanently employed? And what consequence management exists for officials who continue to recycle poverty instead of eliminating it? Where is the evidence, Minister, that this program is doing anything more than managing poverty instead of ending it? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. I think that the honourable member fundamentally misdiagnoses what EPWP is. It was never designed to be a permanent job placement program. It was always designed to be a temporary social relief opportunity that has helped millions of South Africans. Now, of course, that does not mean that we accept that the nature of that program must remain in that way forever. And that's why we have launched the Working on Infrastructure initiative, which, as I said, takes people from 2-month opportunities to 8 to 10-month structured training opportunities with higher paid stipends. And that is in conjunction, again, with TVET colleges and the private sector, so that people are able to get certifiable skills that they can then load onto the database with the SA Youth app, and then be able to be connected to a long-term permanent job. We are also not saying that we should do away with EPWP. I think that it's always going to have some shape and some form to play, but clearly the position and the view that we have, which we are now moving forward, is creating those pathways to long-term employment. However, I must also say that there is no substitute to growing our economy where the private sector creates permanent jobs. And that's what we should be focusing as well. Government cannot be the provider and creator of all jobs in South Africa. And so we should hope that political parties like MK and others support the growth and reform initiatives of government to get the private sector to be the biggest creator and biggest employer of jobs in this country. And programs like working on infrastructure supports that in partnership with the private sector going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, before we move on, Deputy Chief Whip of the largest party, may I request you to remind your caucus that it's in breach of our rules to stand up and move in a line between the member on the floor and the presiding officer. During the minister's last response, 2 of your members breached the rule. So that's of course to you and all other members. Let's please adhere to that rule. Honourable Nkobo, the 4th supplementary question has been allocated to you. Honourable Nkobo of the IFP. Is there somebody else taking charge?
No, thank you, House Chair. I'm standing in from the Honorable Ngobo. Honorable Minister, what process will you resolve dispute between the new property entity and individual departments over releasing such property for centralized management? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Chairperson, I think the honourable member's question was supposed to be for question 388, which was at the beginning of that. It's not relevant to EPWP. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Barth, we return to you for the last opportunity.
Thank you, House Chair, and thank you, Minister, for your answers. Minister, it's quite clear that one of the fundamental flaws or arguments against the EPWP program is the short-term nature of work opportunities. So, Minister, how is your department ensuring that the expanded public works participants are actually being transitioned into sustainable employment and accredited skills pathways, and what measurable targets or tracking mechanisms are going to be put in place to demonstrate that EPWP is becoming a genuine bridge into the formal economy rather than a cycle for temporary relief? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. As you will have known, Honourable Member, this Monday we formally launched the Working on Infrastructure pilot project in Durban, where we had an amazing celebration of young people that have fully embraced the pathway that we are on to use public employment and our infrastructure maintenance agenda to drive skills and then to drive ultimately job creation. And so the Working on Infrastructure project seeks to bring those 2 issues, which are a crisis in our country, and find a solution. And so people will be able to, as I said, register through their own device to participate in the program. They will then be randomly selected. They will then enter into an 8 to 10 month training program, most likely with a TVET college. And in the case of KZN, we have partnered with the Umfolozi Technical Construction College in the north of the province, and they will go through that training, and then they will also get permanent, well, not permanent, but they will get a placement on a construction site so that they can then put those skills to work. Then, of course, we then hope that once they've demonstrated their skills and they've had real life experience, that then construction companies would then want to take them on board, or that they would even want to create their own company because they would have the skills to do so. Currently, only around 18% of people who have an EPWP opportunity find permanent employment. So for us, the obvious metric of success would be anything a lot more than 18%.
Thank
So
you,
the
Honourable
data will be
Minister.
able to show the success and the transition from temporary then to
Thank
permanent
you.
employment. Thank you so much.
Honourable members, question number 344 has been asked by the Honourable Sapu to the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. The question is, given that his department is currently drafting a landmark bill to provide a formal legislative framework for the sector, what are the key mechanisms in the draft legislation that are intended to better coordinate the South African national system of innovation and ensure that scientific research and development directly translates into commercial products and social benefits? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. From our perspective, the drafting of the Science, Technology and Innovation Bill is a strategic priority intended to give legislative muscle to the 2019 White Paper. While the bill is in its formative stages, and of course in the stage of being drafted before we submit it to Parliament, its core mechanisms are designed to move our national system of innovation from a policy-led environment to a legally mandated situation. For this reason, the drafting of this bill represents a strategic shift from merely creating policy, but also to providing a formal legislative framework for system-level steering. As it relates to better coordination, the bill introduces or will introduce a number of mechanisms that are intended to move our national system of innovation from a collection of fragmented parts to a coherent, coordinated system. These mechanisms include the following: enabling system coherence, strengthening governance and accountability, and legislative muscle for coordination. As it relates to translating research and development into commercial products and societal benefits, the bill will focus on ensuring that existing instruments to do this operate more effectively, addressing the uneven capacity knowledge transfer, ecosystem-based innovation, strengthening academia industry linkages. Furthermore, our department intends to conduct a broad public consultation process once the draft is refined, ensuring that the bill that will be submitted to Parliament has also gone through consultation with key stakeholders. Of course, it doesn't stop Parliament to undertake its own consultative processes. I thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Sapu, the first opportunity to ask a supplementary is yours.
Yes, I'll take it on behalf of Honorable Sapo.
Please proceed, Deputy Chief Whip.
How does the department envision measuring the success and impact of the new legislative framework in fostering innovation and ensuring that research outcomes lead to sustainable economic growth and social development over the coming years?
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and thanks to the follow-up question from Honorable Mkunu. This bill will be designed to codify the policy objectives of the 2019 White Paper on Science, Technology and Innovation, as well as our 10-year decadal plan, 2022 to 2032. These documents already contain a set of performance indicators that the legislation will formally entrench. These will include systemic coordination, which is very important to create an ecosystem for innovation, as well as commercialization and impact of research outcomes, as well as broader societal benefit, which will be able to monitor progress against the extent to which science, technology, and innovation is able to pursue what we call grand challenges, like future of work, future of education, future of society, dealing with climate change and all that. Honorable House Chair, I think it's the only department, this one, which doesn't have its own act. All its entities have got legislation, but the department itself has no legal existence and legal identity. That is what also we are aiming to correct. Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Hendricks, the next supplementary question has been allocated to you.
Thanks, Chair. Honorable members. Minister, in what ways does the bill propose to measure and evaluate whether the national system of innovation is successfully converting public R&D investments into tangible economical growth and social impact? I thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thanks, Honorable House Chair. I think that, as I have said, what is key if we benchmark against successful science, technology, and innovation policies globally is that we need to have a proper ecosystem and a framework within which your key role players are going to be able to participate. And those are government, obviously, academia, research institutions and research councils, and industry. We don't have a legislative framework that facilitates that. To quickly give one example, our national system of innovation is doing relatively well as a national system, but we don't have subnational structures to coordinate the work of players in this area in a district or in a province. There is a huge gap there. We hope that this legislation will provide a framework within which we can actually be able to root science, technology, and innovation at all levels of government, if you like, or all levels of our country, in order to be able to ensure that we place innovation at the center of development in our country. I thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Mbata, the next supplementary has been allocated to you.
Let me take this question on behalf of
Please
Honorable
proceed,
Mbata.
Honorable Member.
Minister, the draft bill promises better coordination of a national system of innovation. Yet for over a decade, we have seen a fragmented mandate between the DSI, DST, DHET, and DPE, with no clear lead authority. Can you name a single binding mechanism in this bill, such as a centralized funding, a veto or mandatory project termination power that will actually force non-performing department or agencies to align this with the national research priorities? And why have been previously coordination framework failed to include such teeth? Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Mchad, we are not, or we have not waited for this legislation before we do certain obvious things, like the ones that we are talking about. For instance, we have what we call the presidential plenary, where the president once in a year or once in 2 years calls all the stakeholders under one roof. We've already had that one 2 years ago to discuss how we advance science, technology, and innovation. That's one way of dealing with this fragmented and role players pulling in different directions. Secondly, the president also had established in the previous term an interministerial committee on science, technology, and innovation, which we are reaching out to the president to re-establish that during this seventh administration in order to align the work done by a number of departments, not all of them, but a number of departments that we refer to as being STI intensive. Department of Environment, for instance, would be an obvious one. Trade and industry would be an obvious one, where they come together and we are able to align our budgets. Each government department, by the way, has a budget on science, technology, and innovation, but they are not aligned. So the aim of the IMC is to ensure that we align in order to make maximum impact. Because the budget of the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation on its own will actually not meet this mammoth task of placing innovation at the center of development in our country. Then the legislation will come, and as Parliament, you will be able to look at it, do whatever you want to do with it, amend, chop, change, and so on, in order that we arrive at something that hopefully will then be ideal for
Thank you,
our country.
Honourable
Thank
Minister.
you very much, Honourable Chair.
Honourable Matsone, the next supplementary has been allocated to you.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, I've been listening very closely to your answers to this question on the piece of legislation. And I have one fundamental concern. I think that the average South African would have no idea of the importance of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, because I don't think we do a good job of advertising just how incredible the scientific and academic community in South Africa is. I doubt many South Africans would have known, for example, that South Africa was involved in monitoring the Artemis mission. So we don't make these things attractive for young South Africans to get involved in. And House Chairperson, I would go so far as to say that until we are serious in getting our GDP rather, to 1.4%, which is what our aim is, we can have any piece of legislation we want, but we will still remain underfunded. So how do we get the money to the scientific institutions?
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. We do this knowing that this is not a silver bullet. The legislation is not a silver bullet, as I was also explaining to Honourable Mchad, that there are already, and I agree with you, Honourable Matsoni. I think that as a country, we have a huge task, all of us, not just me standing here, all of us, this House, this Parliament, to make sure that we showcase our achievements in science and inform South Africa better about what science is doing. There are lots of initiatives that we are involved in. Apart from Izimbizo, we've got science Olympiads where we involve learners in competing with others on mathematics, for instance. That's a way of awareness. We have got work that we are doing with the Department of Basic Education to, amongst others, for instance, dissuade school principals who want to get good matric results by taking kids out of pure mathematics and putting them into maths literacy, and sometimes even completely from any mathematics, in order to get better results at schools. That's the kind of work that we are doing, because it will then ensure that we are able to place science, technology, and innovation in the center of society, which is our mantra now as a department. And it will need all of us to actually pull together. There's lots of other work. You can actually ask that to me as a specific question. What work are we doing to promote understanding and knowledge of science, technology, and innovation in South African society? Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, the next supplementary has been allocated to the Honourable Ghana, but I don't see him present anymore. Then we will return to the member that stood in for the Honourable Sapu, who posed the original question.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Minister, thank you so much for the response. In terms of this coming legislation, how do you envisage the legislation ability to place science, technology, and innovation at the center of development and economic growth of this country?
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Mkhunu, thanks for that. I think that this perhaps is at the heart or behind why we want a piece of legislation. Because legislation can help to create a framework to entrench key elements of the system. That is legislated, it's got a legal framework, and hopefully we are able to make certain things not to be easy to ignore or to change if those are things that we need in order to strengthen science, technology, and innovation. As I have said, as you know, also Honorable Mkhunu, we've adopted a mantra now in the department to place science, technology, and innovation at the center of education, at the center of government. We need to do that inside government itself, at the center of industry, and at the center of society. That has been informed by the fact that when I joined this department, I was struck, small as it is, how much work we are actually doing. Many South Africans, Matsoni, are right, don't know about the square kilometer array. It's going to be the single largest science infrastructure in the world that we have here in the Northern Cape, that we are promoting now, by the way, working with Minister Dinila, I see she has left, to promote what we call astrotourism. So the legislation will at least not do those things, policies will assist us to do those, but to provide a framework within which we create a successful system. I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, that brings us to the end of this oral question session. Outstanding replies will be printed in the Hansard. I request members to stand and remain standing until the presiding officer and the maids have left the chamber. That concludes this debate, the business for the day. This House is adjourned.